The chains had rusted, but the pain was fresh. Even after 2 centuries, it still hurt like it happened yesterday. Juno stood on the black cliffs of Sector 9, staring at the broken slave collars lined up across the edge like trophies. The wind howled, carrying the scent of ozone and ash, the aftermath of something the universe hadn't seen before. Something impossible, something human. For 200 years, the Zarketh Dominion had ruled Earth like gods over ants, 10-foot-tall monsters of bone-plated flesh and glowing blue eyes. They didn't talk to us. They commanded us. No warnings, no treaties, just fire in the sky and silence on the ground. Cities crumbled, oceans boiled, and within a month, Earth was theirs. Resistance wasn't crushed, it was erased. They didn't kill all of us. They needed workers, test subjects, organ donors. Toys Juno had been born in one of the labor colonies on Mars, where the sky was always red and hope was always black. Her mother died giving birth, no medicine allowed. Her father? Taken to the pits when she was 10, she never saw him again, but she remembered the way he looked back one last time and whispered, "Remember, baby girl, we come from wolves, not sheep." That stuck with her. The Zarketh didn't know what they were growing in their cages. They didn't understand that pain doesn't just break things, it sharpens them. And somewhere deep beneath the ruined mountains of Earth, in labs hidden from Zarketh scanners, humanity had been building something. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a weapon. It was a child. Project Ember. Not born. Engineered. Designed with one purpose. End them all. Juno wasn't supposed to know about it. She was just another worker. But fate's funny like that. One day the underground grid failed, and she was sent down with a welding torch to fix a broken coil. She ended up inside a chamber sealed for 87 years. And there she saw him, floating in a tank, eyes closed, heart beating like thunder. He didn't look older than 15, but even in that pod, you could feel the weight of him. Like standing next to a sleeping lion, she didn't report it. She didn't fix the coil either. She came back the next night, and the night after that, talking to him, reading old books out loud, teaching him the names of stars, stories of Earth, tales of betrayal, and the meaning of the word revenge. Then one night, he opened his eyes. No panic. No confusion, just awareness, like he had always been waiting. "What's your name?" she whispered. He stared at her. Calm. Steady. Then spoke his first words. "Whatever ends them." That was day 0. By day 1, he walked. By day 2, he flew. By day 5, he tore a Zarketh captain in half with his bare hands. They tried to track him. He blurred past sensors. They tried to kill him. Bullets melted before touching him. They tried to beg. Humans don't forget screams. In 48 hours, he dismantled their core ships, hijacked their fleet AI, turned their own satellites into orbital railguns, and broadcasted a single message across every planet they controlled. "We are not your cattle. We are your consequence." They came at him with everything. Firestorms, quantum bombs, world eaters. Nothing touched him. By the second day, the Zarketh homeworld was burning, their blood painting the skies purple. And humanity, the ones still alive, still hiding in the shadows, stood up, not because we believed we could win, but because we saw one of us make them bleed, and the galaxy learned something that day it would never forget. You can break a human. You can chain a human. But if one ever rises, you better pray the others don't see it. They called him Ash, not because of what he looked like, but because of what he left behind. Entire Zarketh colonies reduced to scorched rubble. Their biomechanical towers crumbled like sandcastles. Not even bodies were found, just ash in the wind. The kind of silence that only comes after something final, and still Juno walked beside him. The girl with dirt under her nails and a scar under her eye. He never called her mother. She never called him son. But they moved like family, connected not by blood but by purpose. On day 3, they reached the orbital gates of Station Seraph 6, one of the last Zarketh strongholds, orbiting a gas giant with 1,000 dead moons. It wasn't just a base. It was a breeding center. That's where they created the next generation of hybrids, Zarketh and other enslaved species. Half-breeds designed for war, stripped of identity, grown in tanks and taught only one thing: obey. Juno had nightmares about this place. Everyone did. The screams weren't just in the cells. They were programmed into the walls. People said if you walked its halls too long, you'd hear voices. Your own, begging for mercy you never gave. Ash didn't flinch when the gates opened. The Zarketh commander inside, armored in black and pulsing blue, greeted him with a slow, crooked smile. You are one. We are Legion, Ash stared back. His voice was like still water. Not anymore. They attacked. 300 elite war-bred soldiers, faster than bullets, stronger than steel. One of them cracked Juno's ribs with a single punch, flinging her into a metal wall. She fell gasping, bones screaming. Ash didn't blink, he didn't punch. He didn't shoot. He walked through them, every enemy that touched him disintegrated. Not exploded, not burned, unmade. As if the universe itself no longer recognized them as real. He wasn't using weapons, he was the weapon. After it was over, after the walls had collapsed and every last tank had shattered, spilling half-born monsters onto the floor, Juno limped beside him and asked, "What are you?" He looked at her, the faintest flicker of emotion behind those stone-colored eyes. "I'm what they created," he said, "but not what they expected." They left the station behind, falling into the atmosphere of the gas giant, burning slow like justice made visible, but the galaxy was watching, and not everyone was human. Across the stars, the other species the Zarketh had enslaved or ruled were paying close attention. Some were afraid. Some were angry, some were hopeful. Because for 200 years, humans were seen as the lowest rung, weak, disobedient, emotional, unstable. Now one of them had done the impossible. Had killed gods. Whispers began to spread in backwater mining colonies, underworld trade hubs and old pirate fleets. Earth's child walks with fire. He doesn't speak for peace. He speaks for vengeance. Maybe it's time we stop fearing them. But not all eyes were friendly. A new threat emerged. Not Zarketh, worse, the Archivists, an ancient, logic-driven race that had once ruled the stars before even the Zarketh. They had hidden in deep space for eons, watching, waiting, believing emotion was weakness, and chaos must be controlled. Ash's rise was a glitch in their perfect system, something that wasn't meant to exist. He wasn't a threat to just the Zarketh. He was a threat to order itself. They sent a message to Ash directly, through neural code embedded in the galaxy's background radiation. You are not evolution. You are error. Return to silence or we will correct you. Ash didn't reply. He didn't need to. He just looked at Juno and asked one question. Are you ready to see what comes after extinction? She wiped the blood from her mouth, stood tall and nodded. Let them try. Because humanity had already been erased once. We learned how to live with nothing. And now that we had one of us standing taller than the stars, we were never going back in cages. You could feel it in the stars. Something had shifted. Across the known systems, frequencies went silent. Not because of fear, but because something worse had taken root. Uncertainty. The Zarketh were gone. Extinct. An empire that had stretched across 1,000 worlds ended in 2 days. And now the Archivists, those cold, unseen watchers of time, had turned their glowing eyes on him. Ash. He didn't blink. He didn't understand fear like the rest of us. That's what made him dangerous. That's what made him ours. Juno and Ash returned to the shattered Earth for the first time in 37 hours. What used to be New York was just a rusted skeleton of towers. Trees had grown through concrete. The sky had a permanent scar from where the first Zarketh ship had split the clouds open 2 centuries ago. But people were still here. Survivors, hidden in the underground. Old rebels, broken soldiers, children born into chains. They didn't know what Ash was. Until they saw him walk through the ruins of a collapsed cathedral, past old bones and burnt-out machines, and lift a flag buried in ash. It wasn't a government's flag. Not anymore. It was Earth's, torn, dirty, but still standing. He held it up without saying a word. And for the first time in 200 years, humans screamed without fear. They roared. Juno stood back, watching the people gather. Old men dropped to their knees. Children reached out like they were seeing a dream come alive. Someone began singing something ancient. A battle hymn, maybe. No one knew the words. But the feeling? That was universal. Hope. But hope doesn't last long when the Archivists are watching. That night it started to rain. Not water. Not fire dust black, fine and cold. It fell from the sky like poison. Everything it touched stopped being, not dead. Not destroyed, just gone. Juno saw a kid pick up a piece of it and vanish in a blink. No scream, no warning. Just absence, like he'd been deleted. Ash stepped forward and lifted a single hand toward the dust falling around him. And the moment it touched his skin, it stopped, hung in the air, frozen, then reversed, flew upward like time itself had changed its mind. The people stared in disbelief, and above them, for the first time in 10,000 years, an archivist appeared. It didn't arrive in a ship. It was the ship. A floating black monolith, covered in shifting, unreadable symbols. Its voice came from everywhere at once, mechanical, calm, cold. You are an unsanctioned creation. Your existence breaks natural law. Return to entropy, or Earth will be reclassified as unnecessary. Ash didn't answer. He walked into the dust, lifted his head and stared directly at the sky, and then he spoke. No translation. No tech, just his voice, human, real. We were never supposed to survive, but we did. So now you have two choices. The archivist's symbols began to glow. Ash kept going. Leave us, or find out why you were better off when we were in chains. The stars above shimmered. Then New blinked out. Not because they were far away, because the archivists had arrived. All of them. It wasn't a war fleet. It was an erasure protocol. They didn't conquer. They didn't fight. They simply removed anything that didn't belong. And Ash? He was top of their list. Juno stood beside him, her body still aching from her cracked ribs, her clothes damp from the death dust, and asked the only thing that mattered. Do we run? Ash turned to her slowly, his face soft for the first time since she'd met him. No, she took a breath. Then what? Ash looked back up at the sky, where darkness moved like smoke, and stars died like embers in water. We end them, too. Ash didn't sleep, not because he didn't need to, but because he couldn't afford to. The sky was bleeding black. Stars were flickering out one by one, like someone was reaching into the cosmos and switching them off. The archivists weren't just threatening extinction. They were performing it. Earth's remaining systems were failing. Signals jammed. Gravity sensors bent sideways. Crops died. Oceans rose. This wasn't war. It was reprogramming. A quiet, calculated deletion of reality itself. Juno stood on the edge of the bunker, beneath what used to be the Colorado Rockies. Ash was below, inside the core chamber, surrounded by ancient tech no one knew how to read except him. The survivors had gathered in silence, some with rifles, others with nothing but fists and stories. They'd followed Ash not because he gave orders, but because when he walked, the air moved like it remembered him. Are we going to die? A boy asked her. Barely 9. Eyes too tired for someone who'd never seen a sky without fire. Juno didn't lie. We were already dead. Now we're just taking our time making it official. The boy nodded like he understood. That's what the world did to kids now. It taught them how to face the end without crying. Then came the pulse. A shockwave of white-blue light surged up from the mountain, blasting snow and rock into the clouds. Everyone ducked, but no one ran. They knew better. If Ash was doing something, it wasn't random. When the dust settled, he emerged, but this time, he wasn't alone. Something walked behind him. It looked human, young, pale, eyes black as coal. But it wasn't breathing, wasn't alive in any way that made sense. Juno stepped forward, hand already on the knife at her hip. Ash raised a hand. It's not a threat. She didn't drop her guard. Then what is it? He looked at the figure behind him, then back at her. It's proof. The being stepped forward and opened its mouth, not to speak, but to project. A holographic feed burst into the air, ancient, dusty, flickering like a damaged memory. And then they saw it. Earth, before humans. Before trees, before anything covered in towers, floating cities, creatures with silver skin and no mouths, archivists, and in the center of it all a chamber full of hundreds of tanks, each one holding a different kind of species. Some that looked like animals, some like insects, some like us. They weren't watching us, they'd made us, grown us, altered us, caged us. We weren't random, we weren't evolution. We were a failed prototype. Juno couldn't breathe. They made us to be like them? Ash nodded slowly. We were their attempt at emotion-based intelligence. Love, hate, loyalty, fear. They wanted to see if feelings could create stronger leaders. She looked horrified. And what happened? He turned to her, voice like gravel. "We felt too much. So they flushed us." That word hit like a bullet. Flushed. Like waste. Like trash. The survivors behind her were dead silent. Faces pale. Some crying. Some shaking with rage. "Then why did they keep us?" she asked. "They didn't," Ash said. "The Zarketh picked us up from the wreckage. Like finding an old toy in a landfill. And used us for fun." Juno stared at the sky. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about being treated like a mistake since the beginning of time. "So what now?" she whispered. Ash stepped toward her and handed her something. A small black orb, glowing red from the inside. Hummed like it was alive. "It's their core memory seed. If we upload it into the galaxy's pulsenet, every species will see what the archivists did. What they're still doing." Juno's eyes widened. "And if we do that, they'll have to erase everything to keep the truth from spreading, even themselves." Ash didn't blink, especially themselves. She held the orb in shaking hands, and for the first time in 200 years, humanity held the trigger. Juno stared at the orb in her hand like it was alive. It pulsed slow like a heartbeat. Each flicker whispered truth. What she held wasn't a bomb. Not in the usual way. It wouldn't blow up planets or melt cities. It was worse. It would expose the past. Ash stood beside her silent, the wind tugging at the scorched edges of his coat. Around them, the last stronghold of Earth's survivors waited, some armed, some wounded, all listening. "The pulsenet is still active?" Juno asked, her voice low. Ash nodded once. "Hidden, buried deep inside Europa's crust. We'll have to plug the memory seed directly into its core." She raised an eyebrow. "You're telling me humanity's last weapon is under a frozen moon we don't even control?" "We control it now," Ash said. "They just don't know it yet." Juno grinned, but it didn't reach her eyes. She knew what this meant. The second they fired off that seed, the archivists would come down hard. Not just to destroy Earth, but to wipe every trace of humanity off every timeline, every record, every molecule. She glanced at the crowd behind them. Survivors, rebels, scars and stares. "You think they're ready for that kind of war?" she asked. Ash looked over them slowly. "No," he said, "but they're ready to die on their feet." That was enough. It took less than 5 hours to reach Europa. Ash had salvaged a Zarketh strike craft weeks ago, rebuilt it from twisted metal and hacked command codes. The thing looked like a dead insect with wings of fire. But it flew fast. Juno piloted. Ash sat in the back, staring at the orb like it was telling him stories only he could hear. As they broke into Europa's orbit, the old satellite defenses lit up like angry ghosts. Ash didn't flinch. He just raised one hand, and every missile froze mid-air, then shattered like glass. The entrance to PulseNet's core was under 12 miles of solid ice. Ash didn't dig. He simply walked, and the ice parted like it recognized him. Inside, the chamber was ancient. Massive rings of metal spun slowly around a pulsating core that looked like a dying sun trapped in a cage. Every wall was covered in dormant screens, unlit for over 100 years, until Ash stepped in. One by one, they lit up, flickering images from across the galaxy. Alien cities, slave worlds, entire systems still under archivist control. Entire civilizations thinking they were free, when in truth they were chess pieces in a game older than their suns. Juno stepped toward the main console. The orb was humming now, louder, faster. "You sure this works?" she asked. Ash didn't answer. He just placed a hand on her shoulder gently. Juno nodded, took a breath and pressed the orb into the core. The lights flashed, not just in the chamber, but across every relay in the PulseNet grid. A signal roared outward, faster than light, faster than sound, carried by gravity waves and data pulses. The truth was unleashed in every corner of the galaxy, from the luxury decks of royal species to the dirt tunnels of labor colonies. The same images appeared, the archivists designing life in vats, deleting failed species with surgical precision, erasing history, cultures and resistance, treating galaxies like test chambers, and most of all, making humans, then abandoning them like spoiled food. The reaction was instant. Some species screamed in horror, others in rage. Some went silent, staring at screens as if seeing themselves for the first time. Questions spread like wildfire. Are we next? Were we created too? Is our God just a machine? And at the center of every broadcast was a single face, Ash, staring straight into the camera, with words that cracked through every firewall. You wanted to forget us. You failed. We're not your property. We're your reckoning. Then the signal cut and the stars screamed. The archivists didn't send ships. They sent something worse. The wipe. It started as a black sphere growing in the void, absorbing all light. Every planet it passed disappeared, not exploded, just gone. Like someone hit delete on a god's keyboard. It was heading straight for Europa. Ash turned to Juno, his expression unreadable. This is where we end it, she stepped forward. How? He looked up at the massive PulseNet core, now overloaded with truth, glowing brighter than a star. We give them a taste of what they fear most. And what's that? He stared into the heart of the system. A human that doesn't obey. Europa shook, not from earthquakes, not from explosions, but from awakening. The PulseNet core was overloaded now, sending signals faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just transmitting data anymore. It was waking up old systems, abandoned satellites, and deep code weaponry hidden for centuries beneath forgotten planets. Juno stood on the upper walkway of the core chamber, her face lit by a cold blue glow. She could feel it in her bones. The wipe was close. Ash stood at the center, palms raised, eyes burning white with raw power. He wasn't speaking, but the air vibrated around him like his thoughts were too loud for reality to hold. She approached slowly. Whatever you're planning, she said. It better be big. Ash turned to her, voice low. It's not just us anymore. Before she could ask what he meant, the sky answered for him across the stars. Something had shifted. Entire systems, once thought to be enslaved, neutral or afraid, rose up. The Malkar Rebellion, once hiding in asteroid belts, now broadcast open support. Earth stood first. We stand second. The Grelin Hive, who had been mute since their queen was killed by the archivists, shattered their silence with a single message. Human rage is not a virus. It's a cure. Even the Zeraxi monks who worshipped silence and order abandoned their sacred temples and launched a fleet. The galaxy needs noise. Let it begin with us. Ash's signal had become a spark, and the galaxy. It had caught fire, but the wipe didn't care, it kept coming. A massive black sphere now, cold perfect, expanding across space. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even a weapon. It was finality. And if it reached Europa, PulseNet, Ash, all of it, everything would disappear. Ash closed his eyes and reached out, not with hands but with mind, with soul. With whatever strange energy had been built into him in those underground tanks long ago, and the PulseNet core responded. Screens shattered. Walls cracked. Time itself bent. Juno screamed as her vision twisted. She saw flashes of Earth during the first invasion, her father dying, her mother screaming in labor, Ash's face in the lab pod, the Zarketh's cruel laughter, and somewhere in the blur, a door. It wasn't real. It wasn't physical. But Ash was pulling something from outside reality, and then it stepped through. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was memory, a living echo of every slave who died screaming, every child who'd been dragged away, every rebel who died alone in the dark. They took form around him, ghosts made of fire and electricity and grief, and they followed Ash, forming a spiral above the core. Juno fell to her knees. What is this? Ash didn't look at her. His voice was not his own anymore. It's everything they tried to erase. He raised both hands toward the sky, and the PulseNet beam exploded upward into orbit, straight at the wipe, and something impossible happened. The wipe paused, not stopped, not destroyed. But it hesitated, like a god realizing it might not be the only one in the room. Ash took a step forward, still glowing with white-hot energy. Juno stood up behind him. Her ribs still ached. Her skin burned, but she felt something deeper, a heat in her chest that felt like home. You think it'll back off? She asked, voice hoarse. No, then what now? He looked up at the black sphere hanging above them like a loaded gun. We make it bleed. And he leapt. Ash flew into the sky, fire trailing behind him, ghosts swirling around his body like armor. And the wipe finally reacted. It cracked open. A screaming void tore wide at its center. Tendrils of pure nothing lashed out toward Ash. He dodged the first, sliced through the second with a glowing arc of energy. The third hit him and the sky shattered. Not exploded, cracked like glass, revealing layers of time, memory, and raw light beneath, and still he pressed forward. Juno stared from below, watching a human, a failed prototype, a discarded experiment, go head-to-head with the universe's deadliest executioner. And he wasn't losing, he was teaching it fear. Ash had always moved like he was outside time. But now, he was breaking it. The sky wasn't just a battlefield anymore. It was a war between reality and something older than logic. The wipe had opened wide like a massive black flower, trying to swallow him whole. Tendrils of void lashed in every direction, eating through clouds, light, matter, and Ash kept pushing forward. He wasn't alone. The echoes, those ghosts of pain, rage, and memory, swirled around him like armor forged in sorrow. Some looked like soldiers. Others were children. Some were featureless shadows of people long forgotten. But they fought every time the wipe struck. The echoes blocked it, absorbed it, sacrificed themselves like they had nothing left to lose. Juno watched from Europa's surface, blood on her lips, gun in hand, though it wouldn't help. All she could do was witness and wait, and pray to no god but to him. Then the wipe screamed, not with sound, with gravity. The moon cracked, mountains folded. The ice cracked beneath her feet, and for a second she swore she heard her father's voice in the quake. "We come from wolves." And then Ash vanished. Just blinked out of the sky. "No," Juno whispered. "No, no, no." Silence. The black sphere began folding in, again. Tighter, compact, precise, like it had finished the job. Her earpiece crackled. Nothing. No signal, no Ash, and that silence. It was the first time since the Zarketh invasion that Juno felt truly alone. She stood there, the PulseNet core still glowing behind her, survivors watching from the bunkers. No one spoke. Then the sphere pulsed once, preparing to finish Europa. Juno looked up with dead eyes, lifted her rifle, not to fire, but to face it. She would not die running, not after everything they'd done, not after what Ash almost gave them. But just as she stepped forward, the stars blinked, not disappeared, blinked, like something had passed between them and her, and then he came back, not falling, descending. Ash dropped from the sky like a comet, surrounded by a corona of pure emotion. Rage, loss, hope, memory. All of it turned into kinetic force. The echoes were gone now. He had absorbed them. He was their vessel. Now Juno's knees buckled as she felt it. Ash wasn't just human anymore. He was what humanity became when it refused to die. He slammed into the wipe with a sound that cracked every glacier on Europa. The impact lit up space like a second sun, and for the first time since its creation, the wipe screamed. Ash tore into it like a storm given flesh. His fists weren't hitting it. They were rewriting it. Every strike forced the void back, pixel by pixel, memory by memory. Juno screamed from below, "Burn it down." And Ash did. He didn't just destroy the wipe. He fed it everything it tried to erase. All the pain, all the suffering, every scream from every forgotten slave, every lost name, every child's final breath, every rebellion that never got a second chance. He gave it back. The wipe couldn't handle it. It began folding inward, rapidly collapsing, screaming with gravity and rage. But it had one last weapon, a final surge. Not meant to destroy Ash, but to erase everything he had touched. A time-based compression loop. If it succeeded, it would undo all of this, return the galaxy to before the signal, before the rebellion, before hope. Ash turned to look down at Juno. She saw his eyes. He wasn't coming back, but he smiled and mouthed one word: "Run." Then he turned back and reached into the collapsing sphere, pulling its final surge inside himself. He didn't scream. He didn't struggle. He held it, a guard's bullet, and he took it straight to the heart. And then, light, blinding, cold, final. The wipe was gone. The sky was quiet. Ash was gone. Juno stood alone on the ice, gun shaking in her hand. People poured out of the bunkers behind her, mouths open, eyes wide. They had survived. He hadn't. But in the silence that followed, across every system, every world, every screen, Ash's face appeared, not alive, not new, a recording. "If you're seeing this, we won. Not because I lived, but because you finally saw who you are. We were born in cages, but we are not animals. We are human, and we are not afraid of gods anymore. They built a statue where he fell, not on Europa but on Earth, in the ashes of what used to be New York. It wasn't made of gold or steel, just black stone scorched and cracked, carved into the shape of a man with arms outstretched, holding nothing. And everything, Ash. The ghost that taught gods how to bleed of us in the war was over, but the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. Over 600 species had received the truth. Signal before the wipe collapsed. Civil wars broke out. Empires fell. Entire religions cracked at the seams. The idea that humans were created, abandoned, enslaved, and still survived, it changed everything. The archivists, what remained of them, went silent. Not destroyed, but broken. The wipe had been their ultimate weapon. The fact it had failed, and worse, been absorbed by one of their oldest mistakes, was enough to dismantle their grip. No one had seen one since. But Juno didn't care. She wasn't looking to start another war. She was just trying to figure out how to live in a world where Ash wasn't standing next to her anymore. She walked through the ruins every day. People greeted her with nods, some with tears, some with respect that made her uncomfortable. They called her the last witness, because she had seen what he did, because she had stood beside him while the universe tried to delete humanity for good. And when they asked her how he did it, how one person could face extinction and win, she always said the same thing. He wasn't alone. You just couldn't see us. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the day of the wipe, Juno returned to the statue. It was quiet. The wind had that burnt electric smell Earth never lost. She placed something at the base of the stone feet. The old black orb, the one that held the truth. The seed Ash had carried. It was dead now, spent. But she didn't leave it as a symbol. She left it as a reminder, because people had already started forgetting, already turning Ash into a myth. A superhero, a glowing golden hero with wings and perfect lines, and that wasn't who he was. He was a kid born in a tube, alone, unloved, engineered to be a tool. He had no God behind him, no divine prophecy, just one woman who refused to let him rot in silence, and the pain of millions of ghosts who whispered to him that they were never truly gone. He wasn't perfect. He was angry. He was wild. He was human, and that's what made him strong. Galactic history changed. The PulseNet became open source. All hidden truths, all erased timelines, all forbidden files unlocked. Species started telling their real stories. Some rose, some fell. But now no one was watching from above, pulling strings. There were still battles, still warlords, still chaos. But now when someone said, "This is how it has always been," someone else could answer no. Ash proved it doesn't have to be. Juno never stopped hearing him, in the rustle of the wind, in the distant thunder, in the laughter of children who weren't born in cages. She trained others, fighters, pilots, hackers, not to follow Ash, but to follow themselves. The next time someone tried to rise as a god, they wouldn't face one rebel with a glowing heart. They'd face 1,000. One night, years later, when the stars were calm and her hair had gone grey, Juno sat alone by the statue. She looked up and whispered, "Where are you now, Ash?" And the wind, just for a second, felt like it answered, "Everywhere you need me."